Alrighty. So good afternoon, I guess, from where I am right now. And good day to everyone who is joining in from wherever you are around the world. And I know this is not only in this room that we're in, it's also a live stream that is going out to everyone who's viewing on all the other platforms as well. So for those in the room, thank you for staying. For those watching the live stream, I hope this will be something fruitful for you guys. I hope this will be something that is revealing at the same time and something you can take back and use later on in your lives as well. So the topic that we're going to talk about, I think it's kind of nice that I'm going right after Cheryl. Andrea kind of cued it really nicely, considering what I heard last when Cheryl kind of said before she logged off. She was talking a lot about purpose. So here, what today I'm going to be talking about is finding your self-center. All right, finding your own self-center towards a societal heart. Now, when I use this term a lot, there's another term which came out during the interview that I did with Andrea yesterday, that I'm choosing to be selfish for you. Now, what does that even mean? I'm choosing to be selfish for you. Now, the idea here is this. We all, as human beings, we are societal creatures. We live among groups of people. It's hard for us to be hermits, though some do have preferences towards that, but the majority of us live in society. We define ourselves by the people we are around, the society that we're in, and the cultures that set us. So we always think of life around this, which is we love to help and be of service to other people. We kind of define ourselves a lot by the things we do for others and the reaction that we get back. But this is a very important question that I think we don't ask ourselves enough. Have we ever asked really ourselves why? Why do we love to help and be of service to somebody else? And most of the time you will keep on hearing things like, yeah, it's helpful to somebody else, it helps somebody else grow, it helps somebody else become better. But think about what the answers are really saying in your head. I feel good helping somebody else. I feel that I've fulfilled my time helping somebody else. I feel like I've done good by the society I live in when I'm helping somebody else. Do you see that I there very often? I feel good. I feel that I've contributed. Essentially, when you are helping somebody else, when you're being of service to anybody at all, you're actually doing it for yourself. You're actually doing it for your own self, for your own fulfillment. And that is key. So we cannot lie to ourselves and keep on saying that everything that we do is very altruistic. No, the consequence of it, or the reaction or the result of it may be altruistic, but we are all doing it for ourselves. We're all doing it to fulfill ourselves. So the key thing is understanding that you're actually doing it for yourself. So this is where that term, I am selfish for you, is coming from. I want to do these things. I feel happy doing these things, but I'm doing these things so that you have a good consequence out of it. So whenever you are helping somebody else, I implore anybody who is kind of listening to this right now, ask yourself the question, why you're doing it. The answers that come back to you may be uncomfortable, but it is fine. And there's something that I will reveal later on about this whole concept that is important, because that is how you know that it is okay, right? Now, the next thing I want to kind of talk to you about this concept of who am I? I think Cheryl was talking about it just now as well. Who am I? When you ask that question, who am I? Who am I? And I think the problem in an essence that we say is everyone is trying to pin it one day or another, that this is who I am. This is who I am. And we're trying to search for that one singular answer of who am I? And Cheryl kind of said it really nicely just now, and I'm going to reiterate that again. There is no one answer. You are a malleable, constantly changing, constantly moving, constantly adapting creature. Who you are today is going to be very different to who you are in another day. Just look at what is appearing on screen right now. All these different terms, right? You can be a father, a racer, a professor, a leader, an employee, an engineer, teacher, business owner, student, mother, father, all these things. And these happen at different points in your life. So who you are is very malleable. But of course, don't forget that your subconscious plays a huge role in this. In your age of zero to about 4, that is when your subconscious mind is working at its most. And a lot of these inputs that you're getting from the world is being built in there. And that kind of defines a bit of that core that you have. That kind of defines how you kind of respond to certain things, how you kind of react to certain things, and kind of defines a little guide to understanding this question in the first place. But that too can change as you grow. That too can change as you move on in life, right? So this concept of who am I, one thing I want everybody to get is you listen to this is it is absolutely malleable, absolutely changing. And you have to be comfortable with that fact as you explore different points of your life. So to answer that question for who am I had to introduce myself. So my name is Nigesh Armon. So right now I'm head of services and solutions at Leadernomics Digital, right? And these are things that I kind of define myself at this point in my life. I'm a brander, so I love representing products, services, and people. I'm a value adder, so I love sharing stories, knowledge, experiences in meaningful ways to add value to people. And I'm a creator. I love creating things. I love communicating through words. I love communicating through audio. I love communicating through visuals. These stories that connect everybody, I love putting them out there. Now, my journey, and this kind of proves that me as well was a very malleable creature. My journey, I started out as an engineer, essentially. And then I actually went on to become a play director and a play actor as well. So I did stage plays when I was in my college years. And essentially that was my first job. That was the first thing I got myself into. And then I moved on to actually do skit and stand-up comedy with a troupe I had many years ago called the Comeback Kings. I moved on to then actually become a full-time musician, putting out an album, running a studio, building a business around it. I also then did real estate for a time as well. So I was an asset manager and also a real estate negotiator for a while. I also then became a teacher, facilitator, trainer, and MC. So I MC quite a few events and host a few events. And yes, I did do engineering. So my graduate degree didn't go to waste. So I did do engineering for a while. And then after that, I also went into the marketing arena with becoming a creative director, audio and video producer. I was head of marketing for a while and also was a business owner for a while. So even in this, my life story was very malleable from time to time. I was trying all these different things because I always questioned, who am I? And the answer that came back to me every time was different. And I decided to listen to myself and actually follow that, because I knew by doing that, that is where I'm actually contributing something good out there. By the actions that I do, the consequence of it contributes something good to people outside. Now, this kind of also helped me define my purpose, my life's purpose right now. So this is my understanding of my life's purpose at this moment, and this could change. My life's purpose is this: to constantly add value to others as well as myself. So by constantly adding value to others as well as myself. But there's a story behind this as well. It may sound very altruistic, but it actually comes from a very, very selfish intrinsic need that I have, which I'll explain in a short while. And that's the question I'm posing to everybody who's listening right now, right? How do I find my life's purpose? So ask yourself that question. How do I find my life's purpose? I think Cheryl was actually covering a lot of this just now. Of course, by focusing on yourself first, not on focusing on others, right? This may be where I'm differing a little bit from what you had before. Focus on yourself first, because think of this. We all want to help everybody else. We all want to be a good societal creature. We all want to be that person who actually produces the best results when you're working somewhere. You want to be a leader because you think that you can contribute, you can actually shape things and all that. But think of this. If you can't help your own self in the first place, if you can't be happy for yourself in your own place. If you're working at a job, but you feel like you're stuck, if you're working at a job, you feel burnt out, if you are in a family setting that is toxic, if you are in a group of friends that are actually making you do bad things, if you cannot help yourself first, you are absolutely not ready to help another. If you cannot do the things that are required for yourself first, on what standing are we the person to go and tell somebody else, this is how you should do things, or let me help you with this? Because yes, at best, you may be just giving a passing advice. At worst, you may be causing harm to that person. That is very important to think about. If you are not helping yourself first, if you are not whole yourself first, you stand the risk of actually harming the other person. And that's the key message that I had at the bottom there. It's okay to be selfish as long as you are not harming anybody. Essentially, nobody wants to hurt another person mentally, emotionally, or physically. So ensure that you're ready to help yourself first, or you can help yourself first. You have a strong understanding and core of yourself first before you even choose to start helping another person, right? So here's where I'm going to kind of introduce 3 concepts to you. And these 3 concepts come into this one main one. The concept of the whole self, knowing your intrinsic need, something that lies there that you need to do or need very importantly in your life to fulfill you. So I'm going to share a little bit of a story with you here. This is how I found that current purpose I have, which is to add value to others and therefore adding it to myself and adding value to myself. This came over time of exploring all the different things I was doing. So all the music, the engineering, all these different things I do. I kept on finding myself being drawn to spaces where I'm involved with building things. I'm involved with building people. I'm involved with getting them to a space where they can become better and they can now take over whatever I'm doing. And I tried figuring out why. Why did I want to do that? Why did I want to constantly do that in the first place? And this took me back into this little journey I had on how I felt when I was in my primary school, my secondary school, my college years. What drove me back then? And something that dawned on me, was very uncomfortable when I thought about it, but something that dawned on me was the reasons why I was doing these things and what drove me back then was the need to matter. I needed to matter to people. I didn't want to become just a passing note. I needed to matter to people. I needed people to notice that. That was uncomfortable because it seems like I'm needy. I'm needy of a person's attention. I'm needy of someone telling me or showing me some sort of reaction that actually means they're listening to me, that I actually mean something to them. But when I understood that, I was like, okay, so that is my intrinsic need in this first place. Now, what can I do? What can I do? If that's my intrinsic need, I cannot run on that because that is me waiting for the consequence to happen for me to feel fulfilled. And I have no control. Nobody on this earth has control on the consequence of actions that we take. We don't. I think we all wish we did, but we never have control of the consequences of the actions that we take. What we have a control of is the choice of the action that we take. We can choose what we're going to do. We can assume and predict what we do is going to have this consequence. But if we decide to pay less energy to that result and just pay a lot of energy to that action that we choose to take, it kind of changes how we perceive things in the first place. It kind of changes the paradigm of control from you waiting for something to happen to you controlling what you're going to do. So when I thought about that again, my own intrinsic need, which is I need to matter. And I thought, how can I change this to me having control of this? That I'm not waiting for the consequence. I'm not waiting for somebody to tell me that, yes, Nigesh, you did something great for me. And this is where that purpose came in. If I choose to just continue adding value to somebody, My actions, all the actions that I take is to add value to somebody else. Even here, when I'm sitting here and talking, is to add value to somebody else. That's a choice I can make. That's an action I can take. I don't need to wait for the other person to tell me that, yes, you did. Because whether big or small, by me sharing something in the first place, I already did add value. I already did. I do not need the person to tell me. So I hijacked that intrinsic need of mine so that I now have control of my actions and my purpose lives that action. So this is an exploration I hope that people, anybody here who is listening to this can actually try doing. And I am going to say this is going to be uncomfortable because I've tried this with quite a number of people. And the answer that comes back usually is very self-centered, extremely self-centered. And this is why I'm saying it is fine. It is fine and get comfortable with that. But you need to now take action, choose to take action, control that action so that you know that as long as you're not harming somebody else, you are already contributing outwardly. Now, thinking about this concept of the whole self, there are three things that I want to kind of share here. The first thing is this: learn to keep understanding yourself. Be intentional. Give yourself time. And it never ends. And what I mean by this is we all have a lot of things that are happening to us, right? A lot of things that are happening to us. But we tend to say this thing to ourselves, like, I don't have time for this right now. I will deal with this later. We will say that and we will not deal with it because life keeps on going on. The clock keeps on ticking. You've got to be intentional. So if you say that, look, I don't have time to deal with this right now, I deal with this later, set the time you want to deal with it. Say to yourself, like, okay, tonight I'm going to spend 2 hours. I'm just going to sit down. If journaling is my way to do it, use journaling. If I'm comfortable with just sitting down and going through my thoughts, do that. Whichever way that allows you to explore and understand yourself, be intentional about it and give yourself the time in two ways. One is set time to do it. And two is don't say that I've got to get this done in this 2 hours, because it doesn't work that way. It may take longer. It may take a few days for you to go through it. Again, that is completely fine. But as long as you're intentional with it, as long as you're doing it, you are moving yourself forward one by one, bit by bit. And this happens always. It never ends. If you do it today, you deal with one of the issues or one of the thoughts or one of the emotions that you have, it doesn't mean it's done. Another day, another one is going to happen because experiences, scenarios, consequences all around you keep on happening. And you got to keep on doing this. So that's the first thing. Learn to keep understanding yourself. The second thing here is practice a lot of self-compassion. So we human beings all feel like we need to constantly move forward and we constantly need to do things. But we say these words a lot. No, I shouldn't be feeling this way. Right? If you're sad about something, or if one day you're working and you just have no energy to work that day, you keep on saying, no, I shouldn't be feeling like this. I should be able to work today. I've got to do my work. What we're doing is harming ourselves. You're not giving yourself time. You're not giving yourself your own humanity in the first place. We are all creatures that will feel all emotions, and all emotions are meant to be felt. So you are a feeling, thinking person. Never deny your thoughts and your feelings. Let it come in. Yes, you can be intentional and say, okay, I can't deal with this right now, but I need to deal with this later. And this goes back to the first thing I shared, right? But never deny your emotions. Go through them and understand them. And the final thing here is be absolutely, brutally honest with yourself. Like how I shared the story of mine where I found that intrinsic need of mine. As uncomfortable as that was, as selfish as that sounded, anyone who may go through that journey, you may find that out as well. Just be brutally honest with yourself. Understand that, accept that. Because truth be told, you're the only person who can deny yourself the truths that will build you. And if you keep on denying and saying that, no, this can't be, I shouldn't be like this, this is not right. If you keep saying words like that, you are denying the truths to yourself. You're denying yourself honesty. Building yourself comes with honesty. Building yourself comes with full understanding of all these things. And if you don't, you're just never going to move forward. So keep these three things in mind, that when you're thinking of this concept of your whole self, knowing your intrinsic need, give time, learn to keep understanding yourself, practice self-compassion, and be brutally honest with yourself. Okay? Now, okay, good question there from Andrea right now. So those of y'all who are in this chat room and who can respond in chat, tell us, are you honest with yourself? Yes or no? All right? So what I'm going to share next is this thing, number 4. And the reason for number 4 is I've kind of given you the concept. I've kind of given you 3 things that you can do. But how do you start moving? How do you start taking some easy steps towards getting there, right? What are the 4 easy things that you can do? So I'm not going to share with you some crazy concepts. I am just going to share with you some things that are actually rather natural and rather simple. Something that I've used very often and something that I keep on using day in, day out that has helped me so much. So there are essentially 4 easy steps. I know this sounds like one of those self-help guides with a cheat hack kind of thing, but it is. Life, or exploring life, is easy, but the process or the journey you go on, that's hard and that's complex, and you got to have that ability to stay through that, right? Seeing some people here, sometimes yes, sometimes no, that I'm honest with myself. I add a value, constantly changing, constantly evolving all the time, but above all, I like to help people see and be the best versions of themselves. Okay, thank you, Christina, on that one. All right. So step 1, know it. Okay, this whole concept of knowing things, right? So knowing the problem, the thought, feeling, what you need in the first step of recognizing. Now, when I say know it, there's 3 words that come to my mind when I do this practice. One is recognizing. When I'm trying to know something, what is this thing that is affecting me? What is this thing that I have to go through? I've got to first recognize that I have got a problem, a thought, a feeling, or something I would like to do. So I need to recognize that in the first place. Sometimes, well, most of the time, this simple step is not taken. You don't recognize that, you know what, I got to do something here. And if you don't even do that, you don't recognize that, yeah, you know what, I've got a problem here, we're not going to take any other step. If we deny the fact that we've got a problem, because problems are changes that are bound to come, and changes can be uncomfortable. Changes can be things that induce fear in us. So we deny ourselves the ability to recognize that we have a problem, a thought, a feeling, or something that we'd like to do. So in the process of knowing it, recognize that you've got that in the first place. The next step is, once you've recognized that, yeah, you know what, I'm feeling this way, you've got to identify the causes, the reasons for it, all right? And here I want to share this whole thing of this concepts between symptoms and causes. So symptoms are the results of the reason. Causes are the reason. A simple way to kind of analyze this whole thing, or analyze this whole thing, is a headache. A headache is a symptom. It is not, oh, the reason I'm not feeling so great today is because I'm having a headache. No, that's one of the symptoms. And you've got to explore that and find out what caused you that headache in the first place. And that is the cause. Now, how do you start identifying? Simple, actually. We've got to ask ourselves questions. So this is where talking to yourself is actually not a weird thing to do. It is not a weird thing to do at all. I'm one person who will immediately tell you this, that I talk to myself very often, out aloud, especially if I'm walking about the house, especially if I feel that I've given myself some time, that 2 hours that I want to kind of explore this feeling or this problem that I have. I'm talking to myself out loud because I want to hear the thoughts that I have. It's very powerful when you bring what is in your brain out to words and you hear it, because your brain now has time to process those things and think through things, create words for it. And when you hear those words again, you will create better understanding. So if you don't want to talk to yourself out loud, the other thing you can do is like journaling, write it down, because that's another way of transferring thought onto recognizable words. It's like taking something that's completely winded up and pulling the strings out so that you can straighten it and see, oh, so this is what it looks like. Right? So ask questions like, how else? What if? Why could it be? Use this kind of questions, right? And don't ask singular sentence questions, in the sense that don't say how, what, why, because when you use those kind of words, it's actually too much or challenging yourself in the wrong way. But ask questions like, how else would I understand this? What if I did this instead? Or what if this feeling came out instead? Why could this be happening to me? So when you ask those questions, you elicit the answers from yourself. You elicit the thought of the answers for yourself. And if you can't, you elicit the need to want to explore and perhaps ask somebody else and get a bounce feedback from somebody else, right? So that's the identify part. And of course, the final bit of knowing it is accepting it in the first place. When you explore things, you are going to come to some things that you like, and you're going to come to a lot of things that you don't like. Accept it. That's one key thing. You've got to accept it. You've got to be brave enough. You've got to build the courage to accept it. And courage is not a thing where there's a fancy framework that you got to follow and get that. No, courage is practice. Doing it once, doing it twice, doing it many, many times builds courage. And the harder things you do, it builds a lot of self-strength and courage. Okay. And before I go to step number two, I'm just going to look at the chat and see if there's anybody here. All right. Christina J says, others feel uncomfortable when I talk to myself out loud, but I do it anyway and write things down. Awesome. Awesome. Yes, a lot of people are going to be, what is wrong with a person talking to themselves? But you know what? If you're comfortable doing that, that means you have a lot of control of your own choices. You got a lot of control on your own self. I even dare say, I mean, I'm not likening any of us here to these kind of people. But unfortunately, sometimes when we drive on the road, we see people who are homeless and who've gone through hard times, and, you know, they're not exactly all put together. But if you observe, and I like observing these people, you do not ever find an inkling of them not being truthful. Not being truthful at all. They're absolutely truthful to themselves. Sometimes I envy that part of them, because there's nothing blocking them from being truthful when they speak to themselves, the words that they're saying. Just great observing those things. So thanks for those comments over there. And yes, Andrea's asking some questions as well. So do answer those questions. I love to see what your answers are going to be like, right? Next thing. Now, once you kind of know it, once you kind of know what is affecting you at that point in time, once you've kind of recognized it, once you've kind of identified and also accepted it, now you're ready to search the path. To search the path, once you have the reason, the cause, it's easier to find a way. But when you search a path, there's no one size shoe fit all. There's no one solution to everything. So the thing we tend to do is we tend to just look down and look at our own feet and think that that's all the world there is, right? And this is where I want to say this. Never just look at your own 2 feet. They are not the only possibilities. So your borders of possibilities is not just around you. It's not just around your home. It's not just around up to your friends. It's not just around the societies or echo chambers that you may be in. It's wide. There's many possibilities. Even in your mind, there are many possibilities. That whole action of asking those questions before, that what if, how could it be? Why would it be this way? Those questions and exploration actually is creating all these different possibilities. It's creating these different possibilities on things that you may be able to explore and work on, right? So it actually, when you're searching for possibilities, when you're asking all these questions, you are considering all the steps ahead, right? You're already considering all the things that you can possibly do that's going to help you understand and work on this thing that you have. So consider all the steps ahead, because you will cover yourself, you will cover the consequences, you will cover the world which you live in. But one very unfortunate fact is this: because it's easier, like when we are taught, education systems that we have, when we go to our jobs, processes that are put in place, there are usually boxes that allow you to kind of function in a certain way and do certain things. The reason for that is because it's replicatable. Everyone else can come in and follow the same thing. But if used in the wrong way, it can constrain you. It can put you into a box. It can put you into a space that you're only going to think that way. So what I want to say to everybody here is this: don't keep your mind contained in a box. The boxes are there. Boxes are good in a way that it gives you a starting point. It gives you a playing field that is comfortable, because if you just end up in the desert, like imagine if you're dropped in the Sahara right now and you're looking left, you're looking right, you're looking up, you're looking down, all you see is sand, 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 sand everywhere, and you don't know where to go. But if you're dropped in the Sahara and someone says, okay, here's a map, here's a compass, use these two so that you can find a way. That's kind of giving you tools and boxes. So use them in that manner. It helps you start moving. It helps you give you that frame to kind of start working on, but start expanding that box. So this is a term that was interesting that came during one of the panel sessions I was involved in. Start expanding that box. I want you to look at this image that you're seeing on screen right now. When it appeared, your eyes, I would think most majority would have been drawn straight to the center on the words there: don't keep your mind contained in a box. But take a minute and look around. Look around the buildings, look around what's happening all around there. In gray, yes, but there's a lot of life there. Look at the balconies, look at the clothes that are there. There's a lot of life there. So that's what happens is if you keep your mind in the boxes like horse blinders, you don't see left and right. But if you take the horse blinders out and you see the box as a whole, and you know you can expand the box, you will start seeing everything in your periphery. And as the box expands, it becomes part of your world view. So look beyond boxes. The possibilities may be there, right? I noticed a flat with clothes and hanging. Yep, Jed. Exactly. The next thing is this. It's important not to pick the easy way out. So whenever we are faced with possibilities, yes, this is not only human beings. This is a theory of thermodynamics coming in here as well, right? The theory of entropy, where all matter tries to take the easiest path to its next destination, right? So we do that too. We usually try to find shortcuts. We usually try to find hacks for ourselves. It's great in nature, but don't deny all the tough things that you got to go through as well. Don't just take the door just because it's the easy way out, right? Pick the right way out. You got to consider all the possibilities and know that, yes, I feel that this will lead me to the right thing, but this is going to take some time and this is going to be hard. It is fine. Pick the right way out. Don't pick the easy way out, right? So that is number 2, searching for the path. So now that you kind of understood, okay, this is knowing what I'm going through. These are possible ways that I can start working on what I'm going through. Great. Most people feel happy that, yeah, I know, but you've gone nowhere yet. You've only now just thought of things. And this next part is important. Do it. Once you've already figured out what you want to do it. Sometimes that's scary because doing it means that I'm going to walk through this door. I know that this is the right door. I know it's going to be hard, but I've got to do it. Do it, right? Take the step. Once we know how we need to put it into action, no matter how scary it's going to be, like this lizard jumping across from wall to wall with the possibility it might fall, right? Now, Of course, there's going to be fear. I told you before, don't deny the feeling. There is going to be fear. Yes, feel it, but don't drown in it. Don't get yourself paralyzed by fear. It's an emotion. You've got to understand it. You've got to understand why, and then move, right? Don't drown yourself in fear. Instead, immerse yourself in action. Remember, you choose your action. You have the choice for your action. That's in your control. It's not consequence. It builds you. It builds a tide. It keeps pushing you forward. As long as you keep taking on action after action, it keeps moving you forward. Here's where I share a little practice of mine or a bad habit of mine that I have. Before doing any kind of these kind of sessions, training sessions, or before I MC an event, or even before I go on stage sometimes when I'm going to perform, or even before I do any work, there's this thought that comes into my head. How did I get myself into this situation? This is going to be hard. Oh my God, what if I do this wrongly? What if I do that wrongly? What if I don't meet the expectation that is needed? All this goes through me. But I use these practices that I'm sharing with you to actually let that flow through me. And it takes about an hour, sometimes longer, to go through that whole thing. But what ends up happening is I've kind of gone through that whole thing and I'm like, all right, you know what? Let's start moving. And when I start moving and I start taking action, it's like a snowball effect that it keeps on moving forward and moving forward and moving forward and moving forward. And if there's any problem that comes along the way, or anything that blocks me that comes along the way, I don't feel as scared because I already thought about it. I already let myself go through that emotion. It's come to the point that what's the worst that can happen because I've thought of it. Okay, let's deal with it. So this is what I mean by immerse yourself in action. It builds a tidal wave for you. And this is the other one as well. Failing is never a problem. Making a mistake is never a problem. Being wrong is never a problem. It is fine to do all these things. It is fine to fail, right? That is how we learn. Failing is merely steps in forward motion. All steps, when you go up a staircase, you may trip sometimes, but you learn how to not step that way. Whenever you make a mistake, you know how not to do that in that manner. You know what the consequence is going to be. Those are all learning. So never take mistakes and failing as, oh, I did not meet the expectation. Take it as, sure, I didn't do it this time, but I've learned how to do it better the next time. Keep that forward momentum. And the final thing that you can do is a practice. And I urge everybody to do this because once you've taken action, once the consequences happen, it's easy for us to say, great, we're done. You're not. You're not quite done yet. How do you bring it back to yourself and help yourself understand that practice of building that whole self thing is this, looking back, the art of reflection. When the dust settles, take that time to reflect. Take the time to understand the experience that you went through. Because when you do that again, that whole talking to yourself, that whole giving yourself time, that whole writing things down, you start noticing things that while you were in action that you didn't notice, that you could take back. And you would be like, whoa, okay, those were the additional things that happened. Understand what worked, what did not work, because you're going to find some new strengths and wisdom in just taking actions and some little gems that are all around you, right? So keep these things in mind. And I think I'm coming close to my time and perhaps there may be questions that are coming as well. So let's start kind of wrapping this up a little bit. All right. Now I want you to think about it. If those of y'all who are here in the Zoom room who can chat, please do chat. Those who are all in the other spaces, just think about this. It's always important whenever we go through any sort of learning that at the end of it, we think about this question. What did you learn today? So maybe let me wait for that and see if there's anybody who wants to answer this. What did you learn today? As I talk through these slides and presentations that I have, these stories that I shared with you, what did you learn today? From YouTube, all right. Cheryl saying, you must find ways to innovate as some of us are in boxes. Feel, acknowledge, move. Great. Thanks, Cheryl. And from Jack, learn from mistakes is my best takeaway. Great. Thank you for that. All right. Let's see if we've got one or two more that is coming. All right. So these questions are important to ask, this final questions usually, and ask yourself this question, like whenever you're going through any sort of learning, if you're going from chapter to chapter, even if you are the one reading the book yourself, stop at each chapter or each point where you're starting to feel a little tired and ask yourself this question: what did I learn at this point? And when you ask that question, quickly jot them down. Quickly jot them down or speak to yourself about it so that you internalize that learning before moving forward. If you just continue the word mug, you continue to mug the learning, you're going to forget all the key things that you've learned, right? So I'm going to move on first and see if there's anybody else who's going to drop something in the chat. Okay, there's Christian. Sorry, I'm pronouncing your name wrongly. Thinking things through is good, and so is planning. However, taking imperfect actions are important. That's beautiful, actually. Taking imperfect action. Any action is action. It does not have to be the perfect action, right? No one knows what perfect really is. Perfect to me is different perfect to somebody else. So taking action is important. I think that's beautiful the way you say that imperfect action is important. All right. So as a reminder to what we kind of shared before, right? Remember this: if you can't help yourself first, you are not ready to help another person. So it is fine to be selfish as long as you're not harming somebody else. Work on yourself, build yourself, immerse yourself. Once you have that understanding in the actions you can take, the control over the choices you have. Keeping this in mind, those things will already have a consequence of adding value or helping somebody else or helping the society that you're in. And remember that whole concept of building your whole self, right? Knowing your intrinsic need, as uncomfortable as it's going to be for this exploration, I actually do urge everyone out there at your time of comfort to start doing these things is learn to keep understanding yourself. Anytime you feel something, anytime you're going through something, take the time intentionally to understand yourself. Practice a lot of self-compassion. Do not deny yourself your emotions. You are a human being. You're going to feel those things. Let it be felt. But of course, take time to understand that and be as brutally honest with yourself, because only you can deny yourself your own honesty that will build you. All right. So I've reached the end of what I wanted to share with everybody here. I'd like to say thank you for those of y'all who are listening. And I'm going to open up the floor to see if there's any question, because I think we've got about 3 minutes to 5 minutes, I think, Andrea.
You have more, because we are in the same Zoom room next up with Dr. Irene. So what I will do, I would just ask you to tell us who is watching, or to the people who are watching on YouTube, where they can reach you if they want, and then I will stop the live stream.
All right, sure thing. So as I do that, if there's anybody who has any questions or any, even if it's something to do with my experiences that you'd like to ask, please do. I'm completely comfortable with sharing anything at all. I am, because I am comfortable with my own self. So go ahead and ask, and hopefully those can shed light to how I came to where I am with these thoughts of what I share. So for those of y'all who like to reach out to me, I think this is a common thing with all of us who are here during this Global Empowerment Summit is LinkedIn. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. Just find Nigesh Armon, Nigesh Armon, separated, right? Reach out to me on LinkedIn, and that's the best place to get a hold of me, and I'll respond to you guys.
Thank you very much. So thank you for watching, guys. If you watch it on replay, don't forget the treasure code is already in the comments, so please make sure that you're putting it in the application and you're gaining points with it.